Anyway, here it is. Britain sits for its third prime minister in 7 weeks.
Returning officer in the leadership election, I can confirm.
By the way, I just want to welcome England to Europe because I feel like going through prime ministers at this rate and just like having a government without like a functioning head of state is incredibly Europe, okay? This is the most European shit. They're literally, they want to be Europe so bad. They did Brexit, but I mean, this is very EU country.
That we have received one valid nomination. Rishi Sunak is therefore elected as leader of the Conservative Party.
To be precise, very Euro-Mediterranean. I mean, Belgium is another example, and that's not Euro-Mediterranean. But, you know.
So there we have the formal confirmation. As I understand it, the way we can interpret that language, joining me now is Robert Hayward. He's a member of the House of Lords and a member of the Conservative Party. There was only one valid nomination in the end, which suggests that Penny Mordaunt didn't get the 100 MPs backing her.
I think that's probable, but equally she may have taken a judgment that even if she's just got over the margin, Rishi was getting so many extra nominations, really heavyweight nominations left, right and centre, that she probably took the judgment quite sensibly that it would be the appropriate thing to withdraw.
Because this is about...
Why is there someone shouting back there? Is that some British shit? What's happening? Boris is not coming back? No. Unfortunately, I spoke too soon. I celebrated too soon. And I thought maybe Bojo would make a return, a triumphant return. And I was wrong. I mean, I wasn't wrong. I didn't say he would definitely return. I was just excited at the prospect. And unfortunately, I have been let down once again. Bojo is not coming back. The person shouting is the town crier with quests.
About unifying...
No, I wasn't wrong. Don't say Hasan was wrong by Pela. I never said he's definitely making a return. I just was excited at the prospect. Okay, you know what? The fucking Hasan was wrong. Take a week off, Megaphonics. How about that? That's what happens. You like that? Glad that you hate Haas scored. Because what the fuck? What? Dude, don't show me that. Louisiana is building a massive LNG plant getting ready for export. Yeah.
Party getting behind one candidate at a very divisive time.
Yeah, one of her messages has been let's unify the party, and therefore probably the best way of unifying the party was actually withdrawing.
Quite extraordinary how quickly this process played out, but that's actually what your members of your party wanted.
Absolutely, no question about it. I think Graham Brady, as chairman of the 1922, has been exemplary in this process, and it's worked well for the party. The bar has been set pretty low, but the party is much more united than it was at the start of the weekend.
What was the appeal for Rishi Sunak? Because he was a very divisive figure, because he took on Boris Johnson. Many people blame him for bringing down Boris Johnson ultimately. What was it ultimately that appealed to him this time round that didn't appeal just a couple of months ago?
I think he was proved right syndrome, in that throughout the hustings he was spending his time saying this economic plan won't work for the following reasons, and the markets confirmed his judgment. So he was saying he was Chancellor, his judgment was right. And
can you explain, this isn't a general election, this is just another Tory brought in the position? Yes, this was not an election. They just switched over party leadership, basically. Someone resigned and another person took their place. That's not, like, they don't have a presidential system like we do here. So, like, you vote for the party, and then the party has a leader, and you functionally are voting for that leader when you're voting for the party. But when that leader resigns, as a consequence of a no confidence vote, or when that leader resigns as a consequence of like everybody hating her so aggressively, like Liz Truss, in a matter of 45 days, the party is just reinstating a new prime minister. There's like a internal process for it internally within the party. You need to have 100 votes. You need to have 100 votes in party membership to be able to get to it. And Bojo, I believe, Bojo claims that he got 100, even though the no confidence vote shows otherwise. But he said that he had 100 votes this time around, but he still did not actually end up running against Rishi Sunak, and Rishi Sunak is now the new prime minister of the UK.
He's now going to be prime minister, and can I just throw in that it is highly significant that this is the first prime minister from an ethnic minority. The message that that sends to a worldwide audience, to your audience, is really highly significant.
Oh my God, they're doing the lib shit, dude. Yeah, he's brown. The message that sends. We did it. We've defeated anti-brown racism here in the UK. Okay.
At the same time, he's very much seen as a figure of the establishment, though, isn't he? You know, he went to, a prestigious private school, he went to Oxford and Stanford, and he worked at Goldman Sachs, and he's seen as out of touch because he's so wealthy. Richer than the king was one of the headlines over the weekend.
It's the indication of what we regard as the American dream. He's actually living the British dream. You know, his parents came here from East Africa, from a Punjabi family, and the whole family, and particularly Rishi, has made a complete success. And can I speak personally, because I have a very, very close friend who is himself half Indian, Hindi, absolutely overjoyed at this moment that his community and the non-white community is reflected in society at its absolute peak.
It certainly is a historic moment, isn't it, Bianca? Not just who's been appointed, what he represents, but also the amount of prime ministers we've had, third in a year.
Truly has.
Boys, he said half, okay?
Historic. I mean, if we look at the trajectory, I was just saying to my producer, we had David Cameron as Prime Minister for 6 years, we had Theresa May as Prime Minister for 3 years, we had Boris Johnson as Prime Minister for 2.5 years, then Liz Truss as Prime Minister for 6 weeks. So Rishi Sunak will obviously be hoping to stop that trajectory in its tracks and have a longer stint in the building behind me. But I completely agree with your guess. It is a truly historic moment to have the first ethnic minority Prime Minister, the first person of colour, the first Hindu Prime Minister. It's actually Diwali today in the way that that's worked out poetically for the Indian community here in the United Kingdom. But also, I was speaking to an MP just then who was saying to me that he seems the right man to address this crisis. This is fundamentally an economic crisis that the country is facing. He has experience as Chief Secretary to the Treasury and, of course, Chancellor through a very turbulent and difficult period in the country's history, the pandemic. So he is considered a safe pair of hands. He's considered to be a very intelligent person. He also has been prepared to subject himself to more media scrutiny than the other candidates and contenders that he faced off against over the last few months, and the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. So I wonder if we can expect a slight change.
For my 2-year, I want you to know I'm incredibly disappointed in your convo with Cutie. The queer references, symbolism, and themes in Taylor Swift's music is overwhelming. Calling people who find explicit factual references to queerness is not psychopathic. Okay. I'm just going to say something here. Okay, and I hope you take this seriously. I really hope you're memeing and you're not like a queer Swiftie who is unironically, doing the QAnon, I'm looking at the different clues that she's leaving shit. Okay? Because, like, if a person who is this online is not openly stating that they're queer, I'm not at all. But you're not at all what? You're not at all joking, or you're not at all serious, I hope. She's just joking. She's joking. She's joking. They're not serious. They're not serious. They're not serious. It's a really good copy pasta, though. I'm just going to go ahead and say they're not serious, okay? Let's continue.
In the way that he interacts with the media and communicates. But Max, what Sunak does have in red flashing lights is some manual on what not to do as a Conservative Prime Minister. Because if we look at the last two, the downfall of Boris Johnson, many would argue, was hubris, projecting this narrative that it's one rule for those who make them and another for the country at large. And that was ultimately the most toxic element of his premiership at the end. And then when it comes to Liz Truss, she was a weak communicator and didn't give the markets enough advance notice of her bold plans that deviated from the status quo. Rishi Sunak, I'm told, will be sticking more to the mandate upon which the Conservative Party were elected back in 2019, and I'm sure those mistakes that have been made by his predecessors and ultimately led to their demise will be in front of his thinking. He'll be considering how he can unite the party, reshape the Conservatives, restore trust, confidence, and try and give them a bit of boost in the polls, where they're of course lagging considerably behind the opposition party.
Sorry.
In terms of what happens now, so what would you expect? We need to hear from Rishi Sunak, don't we? We want to hear what his plans are. Normally, the following day, we'd expect the elected Prime Minister to head to the palace and meet the King. But because everything's been moved around and sped up this time around, could it all happen today? Could it be appointed Prime Minister today, do you think? I mean, there's no great formality involved, is there? It's just a visit to the King.
That's correct, and there is an element of uncertainty here, and we're not entirely sure of the protocol because, of course, we've just heard that Penny Mordaunt's conceded, which has expedited an already truncated and sped up leadership contest. I've heard earlier that it is perfectly possible that he will be appointed leader of the Conservative Party and Prime Minister today. The mechanics of that, whether or not that will actually eventuate, we'll wait to hear probably from the 22 committee, from Downing Street or from Sunak's team. But first we'll have him giving the speech to his party in around 15 minutes time. And that will be the first moment for those within his party to start to, frankly, judge him and test him to see if he has the right stuff, because again, this will be no honeymoon period, just like with Liz Truss, and he has quite a considerable chunk of the party who were supporting the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. They don't necessarily have the best relationship with Sunak, and
like Rishi Sunak is a almost billionaire, right? His estimated wealth is 730 million quid, right? Okay. So when he says, did I say Richie? That's a Freudian slip, dude. And his wife's parents are billionaires, and his wife is like a fucking his wife is caked up too. Okay. The thing is, what's he gonna do? You think he's gonna tax himself? You think he's gonna tax himself, guys? He's gonna be like, yeah, I'm Rishi Sunak, and I believe we should be taxing people like myself. Huh? Also, Rishi Sunak has proved to all little South Asian kids that if your parents send you to a 46K Winchester College, you become a banker and profit millions from the financial crash that led to 300K dying from austerity, and throw other POC under the bus. You too can be PM. Inspirational. Per annum. PA is per annum. So pleased we live in a country where we can elect a South Asian prime minister who deliberately diverted money from urban areas, which have more people of color, to leafy white Tory areas. Some stats on deprivation and ethnicity in light of Rishi Sunak removing funding from deprived urban areas. One of our Twitter space on Tuesday, maybe. Says people from the Pakistani ethnic group were over 3 times as likely as white British people to live in the most overall deprived 10% of neighborhoods. People from the Pakistani and Bangladeshi ethnic groups were over 3 times as likely as white British people to live in the most income-deprived 10% of neighborhoods. People from the white Irish, white British, and white other ethnic groups were least likely out of all the ethnic groups to live in the most income-deprived of 10% of neighborhoods. People from the Pakistani ethnic group were more than twice as likely as white British people to live in the most employment-deprived 10% of neighborhoods. It's literally... like his attitude towards the deprived urban areas that have gotten too much money for far too long is truly devastating. So it's the perfect representation of neoliberal idpol, right? You got an Indian dude who is a conservative, an out and about conservative, who's a banker, straight up saying, like, all these other places where other migrants that look like me live, they're taking too much of the the government dollar, the English government dollar. And that dollar should circulate to, oh God, I'm saying dollar, quid. Holy shit, Akindis. Thank you for the 50 gifted subs. Thank you. I mean, here it is. Here. This is a video that will be brought up a lot. Okay. We have brought it up. We have brought it up already. It's a measure of UK's commitment to diversity and inclusion that we have a new South Asian prime minister who took the time to state he wants to stop and search more black people and repeat right-wing rhetoric about Muslims grooming children. Again, he's also doing like the racist like right-wing narrative, but doing it with a brown face. So obviously, it's not as racist. Why are you calling Richie racist? Yeah. He's brown himself, you fucking bastard, right? That sort of thing. So that's really always fun.
I managed to start changing the funding formulas to make sure that areas like this are getting the funding that they deserve. Because we inherited a bunch of formulas from the Labour Party that shoved all the funding into deprived urban areas. Then that needed to be undone. I started the work of undoing that. I made sure as Chancellor across government, not only do we increase local government funding,
so here he is on black and brown people.
We need to put more police officers on the street. We're in the process of doing that. We also need to make sure that they have the tools they need to actually keep us safe. One thing that concerns me as I've been campaigning around the country is it's clear that there are elements in our police forces that are held back from doing the things that I think they want to do that would actually keep us safe. Because
the bobbies, crack some skulls in it.
Because of an ideology, right? And we talked about this wokish ideology, and stop and search is a good example of a technique that works, that police forces are not always using for reasons that are not right.
Yeah, these woke ideology getting in the way of cops doing their jobs, like stop and search, which is demonstrably proven to not work, okay, is just pure motivated racism, and it doesn't work. It's not good policing, okay? There is empirical evidence to show that it's not good policing, okay? You just end up searching black people and brown people, and you literally lose track of, like, it statistically does not work, okay? It's bad policing across the board. That's it. But you think if you have a suspicion that black and brown people are more likely to commit crimes, and you think like, well, that's justified. That's totally reasonable. It doesn't work that way. Okay. But the woke ideology that Rishi is talking about is called civil rights. Love that. Yeah, we're not letting this woke ideology get in the way. They're calling it civil rights. Well, I call it civil wrongs. That's what we need to bring back.
And all I'll say to you, whether it comes to another thing that we don't tackle, which affects young girls, that's the issue of grooming gangs, which I've been very clear that we must tackle. And we all know.
Brother, you're a Tory. What the fuck do you mean grooming gangs? Okay? Yeah, the grooming gangs narrative is, again, another false narrative. Every time there's like a Muslim or a Pakistani dude that does something pedophilic, okay? Boom, immediately they're like, it's time. Grooming gangs are happening. It's a real thing. Every time a Tory gets, every time a Tory, on the other hand, is selected to a position, they have to do grooming. It's just like a part of the job, you know what I mean? It's in the description. But that, of course, is not considered grooming because it's like overwhelmingly lords and white people, right? It's just nonsense. The point is, obviously not that like you should give allowances to fucking immigrants doing grooming or whatever the fuck. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. The point is, they often will turn a blind eye to the grooming happening in the Tory party, and then they will turn around and claim that like every fucking brown person is a part of a grooming gang. Okay? Not only is it hypocritical, but it's also being weaponized. Like when a fucking Pakistani dude does like grooming, okay, or pedophilia, that doesn't mean all Pakistani people are engaging in this action.
Know why we don't talk about it. It's not right, and I've got a plan to get to grips with it. But what I'll tell everyone here is that I will never let political correctness stand in the way of keeping you and your family safe. That's the type of Prime Minister I will. We need to put more police officers on the street. We're in the process of...
Yeah, it's just like, Prince Andrew exists. It's great that while it was proven people of color were affected more by COVID, Rishi Sunak, our new prime minister, was driving up infections by blocking lockdowns and eat out to help out schemes. Anyway, so just a quick way to describe that it's bullshit. Let's continue.
His camp, it's his opportunity to show that he does want to be the unity candidate. I've heard from MPs that I've spoken to over the weekend that Sunak has made an effort to reach out to those who he isn't usually associated with, sometimes doesn't agree with, to try and have a fresh start and establish the fact that he doesn't want factions, that he wants to choose the people, his camp say, that are best for the role, and not because he's made...
One of the funnier parts about this, though, is that, like, the media, right-wing media in the UK, which is like almost all of the media in the UK, will cover this and say like, oh, well, Rishi Sunak, he's Indian, he's Hindu, he's beautiful, he's wonderful, he's prosperous, racism is over, right? But on the ground, the people that vote for the Tories will unironically get mega racist. That's my prediction. I do feel like it will usher in an Obama era in the UK. And what I mean by that is, and that's not an equivalence to like chattel slavery, to like what Indian immigrants went through or anything like that. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. But it will usher an Obama era in the same sense that like a lot of racist white people lost their fucking minds, okay, when a black person became president in a country that was built on slavery, upholding slavery, white supremacy. Like, you are going to see incredible out and about racist motherfuckers just going crazy, saying that they're not going to be voting for the Tories anymore, that the country is falling apart, and this is not what the UK represents. Okay? We watched a version of this before Rishi Sunak was put up as the next prime minister, as the next leader of the Tory party. You are going to see a lot of You're going to see some Lib Dems shift over and say, well, he's doing a great job. But then you're going to see a bunch of Tories go, why the fuck am I voting for the Conservatives if they're not going to do racism? And meanwhile, he is racist, right? I mean, he is going to be enacting racist policies, but he's brown.
Hi.
We already watched this.
Backroom deals or made promises during this very short and unusual leadership campaign, Max?
Okay, Robert Hayward, so he will be going to the party, presumably, addressing the party first of all?
I would expect him to. I've not heard the formal announcement, but I would expect him to speak to the party. As you said, he's got to go and speak to the King as well. But I'm sure that...
Could it be today, the appointment today?
It could be. Depends on the question of the position of the King in terms of availability processes, etc.
Yeah.
I was involved in John Major's leadership campaign and present in number 11 when Buckingham Palace rang to say, you know, let's fix up the time, let's make the formal arrangements. But it is although it's a brief process, it's a very formal process.
Yes, I didn't mean this. And when I said there wasn't lots of formality, there's not a lot of complication to it. They just have to agree to meet.
Absolutely, but they have to agree to meet. We don't know what the King's current diary looks like, so it's a brief process. But yes, it will be, I'm pretty sure it will be very, very quick.
On this question of uniting the party, I mean, there are parts of Boris Johnson's camp who hate Rishi Sunak. How's he going to build those bridges? Was it a big deal today, people like Priti Patel, to come out in support of Rishi Sunak?
I think people like Priti Patel and Ian Duncan Smith and other people from the right wing of the party, that is significant. That was the bridge building. The fact that the ERG couldn't agree on who they should support shows that there are some people who are still not happy, but overwhelmingly it looks as if the party is much more united than it was on Friday, although that's a pretty low bar. So progress, but not all the way there yet.
We are continuing to follow a breaking news.
Okay. Here, we'll watch a little bit more. This is another really funny gaffe from Rishi. It's a funny gaffe from Rishi, yeah.
The numbers of votes cast for each candidate is as follows.
People know I probably have a reputation for working hard and getting across the details. 30 quid? 30 pounds.
Friends who are aristocrats, I have friends who are upper class, I have friends who are, you know, working class, but I'm not working class. But
it's been reported that you've got family links.
I love that one. Where he's like, well, not working class. I mean, I got friends that are upper class. I got friends that are working class. Well, not working class. Not the fucking pools, but...
To Russia, that your wife apparently has a stake in the Indian IT consultancy firm Infosys. Are you giving advice to others that you're not following in your own home?
That's not. I'm an elected politician, and I'm here to talk to you about what I'm responsible for.
Yeah,
I love that one. Like, you only do that if you have unironically never purchased something for yourself. You do that when you're a fucking billionaire. And, like, that's the thing. For me, I don't understand it. It's like, I always thought that even if you're a billionaire, you still, like, get gas and shit every now and then. You know what I mean? Like, how? How do you avoid buying things with a credit card? Like, how have you avoided for that long, dude? That it makes no money. I mean, it makes no money. It makes no sense. I don't get it. A billionaire has like 3 drivers? No, but like, it just does not make sense, dude. It does not make sense. There is no moment where you actually fucking like went to a grocery store at all. Gotta buy a single piece of hobby wood at Home Depot and carry it out in a plastic bag. Yeah, like Ben Shapiro. Says you, motherfuckers think you have 700 million pounds. Dude, those people are joking. And if they're not joking, it's impossible to save them, okay? We all know you're playing dumb to distance yourself from Bezos' Azan. Yeah.
Addict. Total Coke addict. Coca-Cola addict. Yes.
Thank you very much indeed for having.
Wait, he's a Coca-Cola addict? Okay, that's a redeeming quality. At least he's a soda man.
Addict. Total Coke addict. Coca-Cola addict. Yes.
Thank you very much indeed for having me.
One last thing. One last thing, Chance, if I may.
Bye-bye.
Real talk, when's the last time you used your debit card? Yesterday. The fuck do you mean? What? Well, I mean, I don't have a credit card, but I have a debit card. Like, but it's the same shit. You motherfuckers literally think that I mean, no. Functionally, a credit card and a debit card, the argument is about usage of a chip-based card system, okay? We're not talking about, like, the intricacies between a debit card and a credit card, okay? We're talking about, like, that chatter asked that question about, like, when is the last time you used a credit card, okay? As in, like, when is the last time you swiped for something or used a chip for something? Like, tap to purchase. God damn it, dude. Why so triggered? I don't know, because I have 35,000 little gaslighting shitheads in the chat. Like, it gets annoying when I'm trying to make a fucking point. And chat deliberately goes, all right, well, now it's time to fuck shit up.
Do you believe you may have broken the ruls?
No, extremely and sincerely sorry.
Let's just talk about that figure if we may, because of course.
No, I'm just about to, Ben. It's
okay. Carry on.
okay.